So for minimum wage, here's the national picture in terms of minimum wage. And as you can see, there's a lot of states that have minimum wages that are higher than the federal. Again, political gridlock on the federal level means that a lot of this has moved to the state and municipal level. That's not unusual. We're all used to having the state minimum wage being higher than the federal, but what is different now in Oregon is this new minimum wage scheme that was passed earlier this year. And it's the first like it in the country, trying kind of doing that minimum wage tiered by geographic region. And the first increase went into effect in July, and then it has increases based on what region you are in. And then at the kind of end of the road, says, okay, now that the increases are done that you see on this chart, it will continue to increase based on a consumer price index. So looking at that map, you see here the, what we call the non-urban counties, the standard counties, and then the Portland metro. And the overall concept is that there will be a standard rate, and then that standard rate, you will add a certain amount if you're in Portland, and you'll subtract a certain amount if you're in the frontier counties and the non-urban counties. So while we have it, I believe, marked by county here, one thing to note is that around Portland, it's actually the urban growth boundary, not the county lines. And the urban growth boundary does change about every 10 years. So that's another thing to keep in mind, just knowing where your employees are, because that could impact what that minimum wage rate is for them in the Portland area, whether you're in or out of that urban growth boundary. As for what the rates are, here's a lovely chart here, and I think the map and the chart are courtesy of NAO. Thank you all. And so, as you can see, our initial increase, we only have two rates right now. We have the non-urban counties, and then the standard and the Portland urban growth boundary area are at the same rate currently. Next July that will change, and we will have all three rates going. So, this is, part of this is in effect. I assume that most of you have already dealt with this first part, but in terms of continued compliance, just making sure that as part of your budgeting process, you're looking at what those increases are going to be. Also looking at whether you're going to have a wage compression issue. If the people toward the bottom of the pay scale are, because of the minimum wage going up, going to need to be increased, if then it's going to become an issue for those more at the mid-level. Are they going to have people creeping closer to them, but they're not getting raises in the same way? And is that how you want your pay structure to be? So it may be good to, in the next couple of years, kind of look at that overall pay structure and determine how that's going to look as that rate increases. Again, I think this is an issue for some nonprofits who, kind of pride themselves on having that more higher entry-level rate and being competitive employers because of that. You lose a little bit of that competitive edge. So if you are currently starting everyone at, $13 or $15 an hour, that can be a great incentive for people to come work for you. Well, as the minimum wage gets closer and closer to that, you may lose some of that competitive edge. And so you may want to be looking at, okay, you may be fine in terms of this, but is that going to create other issues for you in terms of hiring? Something to keep in mind. And then, of course, make sure you are updating your minimum wage poster regularly, yearly, at least on that. And you can order the all-in-one posters, you can print it out. I think we have an all-in-one poster that has 3 or 4 pieces that have been smacked on top of it since then. So don't think that the HR companies are necessarily doing it differently than you are. We don't have a silver bullet for that either.